really excited to have you guys here today. Let's see, before we get started, we usually have a couple things to go through as we let the last few people roll in. But I would love in the meantime to hear where you guys are signing in from. We have a chat box. Go ahead and let us know there. We're here today at our headquarters in San Luis Obispo. Another thing to know for the webinar, we do have a Q&A box, so if anything pops up during Amaya's presentation, feel free to send your question into that little Q&A icon, and we're going to be taking the time at the end of the webinar to answer those. All right, it looks like we have someone here from Kauai, Charleston, Memphis, Tennessee, Chicago, New Jersey, Connecticut, Hermitage, Mystic, San Clemente, California, Bend, Oregon, Monterey, Mexico. Very cool. I love to see how diverse our listeners are. It's amazing that you guys are signed in from all over the place. Well, with that, we're excited to get started. We will be recording today's webinar, so don't worry, you guys. You'll be getting that at the end if for some reason you miss any details or have to jump off early. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce you today to our speaker, Amaya. She's going to be leading the talk about the state of the fitness industry. Hey, Amaya.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Amaya. I'm the director of our research and product marketing team here at MindBody. And one of the things that we do is we are responsible for kind of keeping track of the industry, what's happening, what's hot, what are trends we should be paying attention to. And I think one of the things we realize is that a lot of the things we're finding and the data that we're gathering, not only is it useful for us as a company to be building the greatest products and services for the industry, but it's also super valuable to our customers. And so what we've done is we've pulled together kind of the latest and greatest trends that we think that you guys are going to find really valuable and helpful and interesting. And we've put it into this presentation. One other thing I'll say is a lot of this stuff we did share at the BOLD conference, which is a great opportunity to see kind of the latest and greatest from MindBody. But there's new content in here that is fresh data that we were able to pull and put together as of December this year. So there's some definitely up-to-date content. Okay, let me go ahead and get started. So let me talk a little bit about the wellness industry. Hold on, I have a box here that's obscuring my view. Okay, so a little bit more on the wellness industry. One of the ways that we look at the global wellness industry is one of our partners, the Global Wellness Institute, puts out an annual report called the Global Wellness Economy Monitor, which is a great piece of content if anybody's interested in this kind of stuff and geeking out on world economics. The really awesome stat that they just put out in October is that the global wellness economy is $4.2 trillion economy. That's huge. That's like a fifth of the total US economy. And so they break out the wellness economy into a variety of different sectors. So some of these are adjacent industries that we're interested in, but then you'll see some of them in here are very interesting to us, like, this $595 billion fitness industry. And you can kind of see how things break out. But that's great news. Wellness is definitely on the rise, and it's a healthy industry. In the US, we have pulled together a few stats on different fitness sectors. So we're seeing a lot of strong growth in fitness. Specifically, yoga and Pilates, it's projected to grow at a rate of 4.9 annualized through 2022. Gyms and health clubs growing at a rate of 5.3%. And interestingly, some of these boutique fitness franchises experiencing a lot of strong growth. So the boutique industry is doing really well, and franchises are projected to grow at 17.6% through 2022. When we look at our own customers relative to the US GDP, we're also seeing strong growth. So that gray line down along the bottom is kind of the US GDP overall. And you can see that mind-body class-based businesses, which are a lot of our fitness businesses, and appointment-based businesses are both growing in at rates that are stronger than the relative to other businesses in the US. So you guys are in a healthy market and a lot of expected growth. So let's talk a little bit about wellness in America and the opportunity. Recently, we had the opportunity to do a huge survey of consumers. So we had over 16,000 consumers in the US participate in this survey and give us information about how they're participating in wellness. And one of the ways that MindBody thinks about wellness is through the 7 dimensions of wellness. You guys may have seen some of this from us before, but we basically think about wellness holistically as encompassing these 7 different dimensions. And when you look at how Americans are reporting on their own wellness relationship with these dimensions, you can see that there's quite an opportunity for us to continue to improve wellness in America. So we're seeing things like, 72% of Americans say they don't prioritize fitness. Obviously, that's a huge opportunity for us to continue growing. 30% not satisfied with their social connections or don't feel comfortable expressing feelings. So even though the industry is experiencing a lot of growth, there's still a huge opportunity. What we know, and this probably isn't a surprise to you guys to see this stat, but group fitness, not only is it great for improving physical health, but it's also linked to a lot of other dimensions of wellness. So one of the cool things we found in looking at our data is that people who regularly participate in group fitness report feeling more spiritually fulfilled than those who don't. I think that anybody who owns a yoga studio or CrossFit studio know that there's like this really tight bond that you form with your community, and we're seeing that expressed in our data. What else we know about these people that participate regularly in group fitness is that they have a lot more positive lifestyle behaviors. They express having closer relationships with family members and friends. They're more comfortable expressing feelings and having enjoying their work and their day-to-day activities and finding time for play and having fun. So there's kind of this nice synergy between all these dimensions that improving one can sometimes have benefits to others. So our belief here is really, that engaging in wellness holistically is going to have a lot of improvements for Americans. When we look broadly at how Americans are engaging with wellness providers, this is what we see in the data. So about 61% of US adults report that they regularly get beauty services. About 36% regularly get integrative health services, and about 22% are regularly engaging with fitness and group fitness facilities. And then only about 25% of Americans regularly do all 3. So at the end of the day, the industries are growing. There's a lot of hope and potential, but we still believe that wellness providers are needed more than ever. Cool. So one of the reasons why we did that large survey that I just shared with you is because we wanted to find a way to measure the health of the wellness industry. And so we put together a proprietary index that I'm going to share with you guys a little bit of details around. And there's tons of content available on our website and also in the press around this wellness index. So basically what we did with the wellness index is that we wanted to measure the health or the strength of a two-sided wellness marketplace. So if you were to ask how strong is the wellness economy or the wellness market within a specific area of the U.S., I would tell you that it's going to be a supply and demand question. So businesses should be showing healthy signs of growth, and also we should see a strong demand on the consumer side. So if you know anything about MindBody, I'm sure you guys have told us, you guys have all this data, you must be doing a lot with it. We want to know more about our city or our region or our area. And this is kind of our first stab at putting some of that together for you. So we're looking at a lot of indicators of business strength and also that consumer strength in building this index. So let me show you some of the first results. We did this is our first pass on the Wellness Index, and we looked at the top 50. They're called metropolitan statistical areas, but the top 50 cities in the US. And we built a ranking. So this is just an image from our white paper. You guys can dive in deeper here. But basically, it's showing you which of these cities has the strongest wellness market. So you'll see a surprise, or I think an interesting finding, that the strongest wellness market on our index is Austin, Texas. And then you'll see, San Francisco is also up there, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Denver is number 4. So these may be surprising cities to you guys. I think some of the other research indicates that these cities are tending to be attracting a lot of millennials, a lot of growth. And so what's happening in these cities is that there's a great opportunity for businesses to be demanding a high dollar. There's a lot of demand from the consumer side. And so this is, you can find your city, your area, or hopefully someplace like it, and see more about your specific region. So more to come on this front. This is just a little bit more about why those top 10 ranked where they did. You'll see, for instance, with the Austin stat, there's a really high demand for those wellness services in Austin. So there's lots of press that we've been able to generate about this index. You guys may see us in some of these citations, and be on the lookout. And definitely more to come on this front. Great, so let's talk a little bit more about consumer wellness trends. In the process of doing some of these surveys, we were actually able to ask consumers about what types of wellness activities they're engaging in, and we were able to put together kind of like a what's hot and what's not list and ranking. So I'm going to share some of that with you guys that I think might be relevant for your industry. So in terms of group fitness, what we saw surprisingly was that the hottest group fitness activity is yoga. This is a really interesting stat to me. I think I thought about the first time that I heard of yoga when I was a kid and my grandma was in a leotard getting dressed up to go out and do yoga, and I was like, yogurt? What is that? And so, we see yoga everywhere in the US now, and it's just really interesting that that's just become so mainstream and so popular when you take a step back and think about it. Definitely, it's universally appealing as well. 25% of people that do group exercise say that they're going to yoga at least once a week. And we saw this also reflected when we looked across age groups and demographics, is that there's like a universal popularity with yoga. So another fun stat we're always tracking is the brogies. So, yoga is not just for women. We're seeing a steady year-over-year rise with the number of men who are engaging in yoga practice. And what we're seeing is about 37% of yoga practitioners are male. And this is up 7% from 2016. So that's a big growth in just a couple of years. And the men who do yoga tend to be very dedicated. 35% of people of men who practice yoga say that they're doing it 4 to 5 times a week or more. So super interesting. We also were able to ask people who regularly go to yoga studios. We know that a lot of studios make supplemental income, or they tend to host a lot of workshops and events. And so we asked people kind of like what's interesting to you in terms of events. So anybody who, I would say yoga, but then you can think about other businesses of a similar type or category, like workshops and what's hot. What we found is that the people are most interested in meditation workshops. I think looking at some of the data and statistics out there, like meditation is definitely growing in popularity in the U.S. General population, and so that's definitely reflected in our data as well. When we looked at popularity of fitness across age demographics, one of the things we found is that those millennials and Gen Zers, so those are the younger generation, are really interested in those high intensity interval training types of activities. So we see that about 35% of millennials and Gen Zers are saying that that's something that they're interested in trying next, are those HIIT boot camp and CrossFit types of workouts. But we're also seeing popularity there with kickboxing, martial arts, and this one was kind of interesting. The aerial workouts seem to be interesting to those Gen Zers as well. And I would note anybody who's like taking screenshots and like actively interested in this data, like we're definitely planning on sharing this content after the fact. So don't worry about getting all of these nitty-gritty details. We're happy to share. Cool. So another thing that we were looking at is how consumers are spending on their wellness across different segments of users. And so, one of the things we did is look at wellness spending across how much people are participating in different types of wellness. So this is self-reported monthly spend by these survey participants. And what we see is that across kind of generally the population, Americans are spending about $75 a month on wellness. And so that's broken out by fitness, beauty, and integrative health spend. When we look at people who work out one time a week or more, and this is any kind of working out, you'll see that they spend a little bit more in general on wellness. And then when we narrow that down to people that are going to group fitness, like a group fitness class or facility, one time a week or more, that wellness spend jumps up almost double to $155 a month across all the different wellness modalities. And finally, when we compare this data to the people that use the MindBody app, we see something really surprising. This is people on the MindBody app, monthly active users. That's their wellness spend is $277 a month. That's huge, and that's definitely a reason to have your business listed on the MindBody app. People who are on that app are definitely prioritizing spending money on wellness. So we're seeing in general that participation in group fitness correlates with higher spending across all those wellness modalities. Great, so let's talk a little bit about some industry benchmarks, what we're seeing in our data. And this comes from our partners in the data science department at MindBody. These are just some of the trends that we've been able to pull out from our customers. So one of the things that we look at is online bookings. I think we know that online bookings are really valuable in terms of just making your business more efficient. So the more bookings that can kind of happen in a self-serve type of way definitely help you decrease those staffing costs at the business. So we're seeing year over year, there's a steady growth in online bookings, but they're still hovering at around 40% of all total bookings. So I would say there's still this opportunity to optimize how your business is set up to take consumer bookings directly through your website, through your apps, things like that. Another thing that we were able to look at is social media bookings and how social media is driving consumer discovery and purchases. And so what we're seeing is that Facebook is definitely one of the top places for driving discoveries. And then Instagram and Pinterest are also up there. The other thing that we looked at in terms of social media is how it's driving not only discovery but purchases. So one thing that was interesting is that people who find businesses online report buying from that business later. So you may not see that conversion right away, but having a great listing in social media is definitely influential in someone coming to your business and discovering you and that presence. So again, optimizing your listing out in the digital world in social media is super important. And MindBody's also been investing in some of that. We have some new booking tools that allow you to list your business in Facebook to take direct bookings. Obviously, we have a Google integration, and we're working on some other social channels for that direct booking through your business listing. Another thing that we think about is retention rates. So this shows a stat for year-over-year retention rates, the average retention rate for class-based businesses. it's only about 32%. And so this is the number of people who had some kind of purchase at your business last year, and then you've retained them and they're continuing to purchase at your business this year. So that means that almost 2/3 of customers coming to the average Mind Body Studio are being lost. Obviously, retention is a big factor, something to keep in mind, like how are you optimizing your business to retain your customers? So that's super important. One of the things that we wanted to also look at is kind of like, what's that gold standard? Like, what should you be shooting for? That's a great retention rate. I'm just showing you the average. So what would be something aspirational? So what we did is looked at the top 10% of businesses, what's their retention rate? And what we see that it's still only about 56%, but that's like, just something to shoot for. Like, can you get your retention statistics up a little bit higher? 56 is probably like aspirationally what you could shoot for or could hope to shoot for. Another thing that we were thinking about is what types of purchases are happening at the average studio. And so what I'm going to show you is, it's called the sales mix by revenue. And basically it's showing that in an average fitness studio, about 40% of sales are related to membership sales. So 40% of that revenue is coming in through membership sales. 41% is from multi-session, so that would be your 5 packs, 10 packs, things like that. And then about 19% is a single session. These are kind of average numbers, and potentially, like, you may want to think about how your business's revenue breakdown compares to this. And I'm just going to show you an example from a different vertical, which is integrative health, and you can see how that's very different for those types of appointment-based businesses. A lot more revenues coming in from single session, although we are seeing things like memberships start to rise as a trend with these types of businesses. Okay, so talking about monthly operating costs, we had the opportunity in December to do a share of wallet survey, or basically like, how are you spending, what is your average expenses? And so I'm sharing some of this new data with you guys. Some of you may have participated in this survey. We invited all our customers to participate. But this is basically showing across all our customers that participated in the survey, which is about 1,000 customers, what's kind of the average monthly operating cost? And then how do you compare to this? So, immediately the thing that jumps out is biggest costs by far for our customers is rent and payroll are the two biggest costs that our customers are bearing. There's investment in retail products and merchandise. And then on average, most customers are spending about $500 on advertising. So again, that's something you want to think about. Like, are you investing enough in advertising? Where does that fall relative to what you're spending on advertising? And then, MindBody software on average is about that $239 point. Other software around $200, and then website fees around $200 as well. So in total, marketing and software expenses for most businesses are around $1,000 monthly. And one of the things we were able to look at is, this is a lot of data, but basically what it's showing you is that those operating costs vary a ton by industry and some of the business factors. So what you can see in this distribution is, salons and gyms tend to spend a lot more in general on their monthly operating costs. You can think about salons in particular, like they often have a lot of retail investment that they're making, and potentially like a lot of, payroll costs. Gyms tend to be bigger facilities. They may be bearing more rent costs. The most, I'd say, efficient potentially is that fitness business in terms of an average monthly cost. When we look at businesses in terms of their kind of business goals, like are they focusing on getting stable, maintaining stability, or actively growing, you can see that those actively growing businesses are probably spending a little bit more on marketing and things like that. And then we also see by business age that these more established businesses, while they're profitable, are also spending more too. And another interesting stat we looked at is how people's technology adoption level influences how much they're spending. So we're seeing people that classify themselves as early tech adopters are spending more on average. So lots of really interesting data here on the benchmarking study. This hasn't been released yet. This is just some of the early data, but definitely look for more from MindBody in terms of these benchmarks in the future. And finally, I'm going to show you some of the monthly operating costs by industry and business factors. And you can just see how that percent spend kind of breaks down, looking at the percentage of costs. So for a fitness business, spending about 33% of their total expenses is on rent, 54 on payroll, and then you can see like really what's being spent on software and advertising is pretty small in comparison to some of those other costs. So finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about business technology. We also asked these businesses in this benchmarks survey about the types of technology that they're using at their business and what are things that they're going to be actively investing in 2019. So this is, again, a lot of data that you can see, like about 66% of our businesses are investing in some kind of email marketing tool or platform. And this is like, typical like email newsletter type of product. Bookkeeping and website hosting and management are all kind of table stakes for businesses. But then you can see like, about 34% of our businesses are investing in text messaging or products that help with customer surveys and referrals. So this is just, really good idea to get a sense of like, what are other businesses like me spending on some of these other technologies and softwares outside of MindBody. And finally, what's hot? What are things that people are actively looking at in 2019? Definitely people are interested in looking more at customer surveys and referrals. So ways to get feedback about their own business and potentially get those referrals and reviews through some of these automated tools that can kind of improve people's social sentiment online. And then text messaging and email marketing automation. So these are products that sort of automate campaigns for customers coming in. Drip campaigns allow you to sort of capture customers and automate some of the tasks around those retention types of use cases. As I was mentioning, retention is so critical to so many businesses. So that's some of the latest and greatest from MindBody. Katrina, I will pass it over to you if you want to ask any hot burning questions from the audience. I'd love to do my best to answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder to you guys, please submit those questions to our Q&A panel. That's where we'll be fielding them. Okay, so the first question I have, I don't know if this is even anything that we have on here, but someone is wanting to know, do we have any visibility on the average cost to open an independent studio?
Wow. Average cost to open an independent studio. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we gathered data around some of those early investment costs. I mean, I know that there's definitely some great references about like franchising and things like that, that I've looked at online. We didn't specifically ask that in our survey, so I don't have specific data around like the MindBody side of things there.
Awesome. Okay, another question. Let's see. We have a couple of people asking, will the slides be available after the presentation? We're sending you guys a recording of this, so don't worry.
Yeah, I'm happy to make slides available too, if that's helpful.
All right, another question we have someone wanting to know what SEO means. SEO, means search engine optimization. So anything that you can do to help your business show up at the top of search sites on the internet. And then Amaya, is there anything else you want to expand on that?
No, I think there's just certain products that can help you kind of show up as the top listing in Google or on other search engine sites. It's kind of a pay-to-play type of environment. So, those are products people are investing in to sort of improve that.
Great. Okay. Caitlin wants to know, can you define fitness versus gym in your data?
Yeah, we differentiated between what we call like more of a boutique fitness type of facility. And so we're looking at businesses that are categorized as yoga, Pilates, bar, cycling. They're probably a smaller facility. They have a smaller footprint. And then a gym would be like a larger multi-purpose gym or multiplex gym. So we have data on our customers in terms of like the vertical category that they fit within, and we do our best to differentiate between those. I think the business models can vary. Definitely, like I was saying, that the square footage, that footprint can vary, and their needs vary, and so that's why we tend to differentiate between those. I think in reality, we see that there's like kind of a lot of bleeding over in terms of the edges. So this is just like, general averages in terms of how we're looking at our data.
Great. And then, Amaya, you also mentioned workshops for women. Are you referring to empowerment self-help style workshops or something different?
That's great. Let me actually look back at that slide if I can go back. This is okay here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I would have to check with my team on what specifically are like those workshops for women. I think it's probably a general category where it would be primarily inclusive of a female audience. Maybe it could be empowerment type of workshops, or specifically related to like, female type of topics, or like, things that are unique to women's bodies.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. We have some really specific questions coming in from you guys, so we'll do our best to answer those. All right. Miguel wants to know, on the slide with the pie chart with single session memberships or class passes, were those numbers based on revenue or on customers?
Those are revenue. So of all revenue coming in.
Great. Another question, do you have data showing the ratio of male to female per different types of studios by any chance?
I bet you we do, not in this presentation, but we may even have that in some of our reports online, some of our white papers. We have a specific white paper that came out on fitness trends on our website. And I think we may have gender differences in terms of interest in specific group fitness types of modalities. I'm fairly confident about that answer.
Yeah, we have a couple of people saying they'd love to see breakdowns by age or even studio age to set a benchmark for their goals.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, I think we've just started to scratch the surface on some of those benchmarking studies. So definitely look for more from us coming out in terms of content on our website or being emailed.
It looks like there are a couple people here that are curious about statistics related to technology used inside of the facility, like heart rate monitors or app utilization. Mm-hmm. I know that isn't necessarily part of this specifically, but do we have any stats on that?
Yeah, I think this stat is kind of telling you the latest on what we have there. You can see, let's see, excuse me. You can see we're seeing about 13% of our survey respondents have some kind of custom branded mobile app at their facility currently. And then we have stuff like those in-studio displays and leaderboards. So those would be people that are doing, the kind of that Orange Theory thing where they're showing heart rates on display on a leaderboard. We have about 7% of the respondents were indicating that they currently have that. And then I'm just going to flip to the next slide so we can see.
It looks like there's 14% for nutrition tracking. Is that right?
Yeah, nutrition tracking.
And performance tracking.
Yeah, performance tracking. So those could be things like where you have like you're offering your customers like a portal to log into, or maybe some kind of like application where they're logging or logging performance and nutrition, or you have some kind of coaching thing where you're utilizing technology to supplement your services in the studio with that.
Great. Okay, a couple more questions in here. In this presentation, do you categorize yoga as wellness or as fitness?
We categorize it as fitness, and we put it in with the other fitness types of businesses. Although, like I was saying, it can be hard looking broadly at our customer bases because like yoga is a wellness modality as well. So there's definitely like soft edges on some of this.
And then Mandy asked, is MindBody only for brick and mortar studios or for other types of studios?
So MindBody, I think there's certain aspects of the MindBody software that make it really optimized for brick and mortar types of studios. And there's like certain features that make it a little bit more challenging for people that do remote types of things. It's really it's a great robust tool for a brick and mortar.
Great. And then we have an anonymous attendee asking, what is a chatbot?
Oh, a chatbot. So chatbots are, there's a lot of, kind of hype, I would say, about chatbots right now. Although there are some really interesting things on that. Basically it's like a live chat that will intercept people on your website. You guys may have gone to a website before and then have a little text box pop up and say, hey, can I help you today? And you're kind of like, is that a real human or is it a piece of technology? And to a certain degree, it doesn't really matter if it's like actually answering your questions and getting you to the next stage. So a lot of companies are starting to utilize chatbot for doing really basic types of customer service things and answering some of those like questions that you constantly get repeatedly. So some of our early adopter customers are talking about leveraging chatbots on their own websites or in their own social media site to help get new customers in the door, maybe answer basic questions about their offerings, tell them like, what do I need to bring to my first yoga class? And it'll just answer questions automatically because it's kind of an autonomous like AI type of bot. So that's what a chatbot is.
Okay, and then we have to wrap up here pretty soon, but our last question to clarify is a wearable considered clothing or a heart rate monitor?
It's probably in this case, it would be a heart rate monitor. I think we, in the survey itself, these are just like general terms, but we defined each one of them. So we were specifically thinking about, the Fitbits and those kinds of technologies to do heart rate monitoring and maybe look at tracking of like steps and things like that.
Great. So just to wrap up here, I know there are a few questions we didn't get to answer today. Questions about benchmarks for healthy numbers of new members per month, or even stats related to retention marketing to show what customers enjoy, what they don't. And then maybe even some further research, deeper research into areas specific to geographics. Maya and her team are incredible. We're always coming out with new research and new statistics for you guys to help you be more successful, and keep your eye out for that. We're going to be releasing those throughout the year. And with that, Maya, thank you so much. This was incredibly helpful. You did a great job.
Sure. Yeah. And I would say thanks for the questions, even the things we didn't get to. Like, We love your feedback and things that we can continue to add to our roadmap for research and continue providing valuable data and content to you guys. So these are all really valuable for us in thinking about what to do next in the future.
Great, and thank you again to everyone that attended today's webinar. We were happy to have you guys here. We have a couple more webinars coming up this month that are really interesting, so make sure to check out our resource page. We have one coming up, I believe, in a couple weeks about leadership and management training and inspiration for you guys. So with that, we hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.